The last train of the night had already left. The lights above Musutafu Station buzzed and flickered like they were tired too. Kota Sato was not the kind of villain who thought big. He was a grab-a-wallet-and-run kind of villain. He had a cheap mask, a cheap knife, and 2 friends who laughed too loud. They cornered a salaryman near the empty ticket gates. "Phone," Kota said. "Wallet, fast." The salaryman raised his hands. His voice shook. "Please, I have a kid." Kota rolled his eyes like that was annoying. His friends moved in from both sides. One of them cracked his knuckles. The other one kept looking down the street, worried a hero might show up. Then the world did something that did not make sense. The air near the platform stairs bent. Not like heat. Not like wind. Like the picture of the world had been cut with scissors, and someone was sliding the pieces the wrong way. A shadow spilled onto the floor. It was not a normal shadow. It was thick. It moved like water. It crawled up the wall. It climbed the ticket gate. It pooled in the middle of the open space. And then a man stepped out of it. He was tall. He wore a long red coat that looked too fancy for this place. His hair was dark. His smile was wide. His eyes were sharp, like he was always watching for the punchline. He looked around like he had just walked into a boring party. Kota blinked hard. Hey, this is a robbery." The red man turned his head slowly. His smile got bigger. "Oh," he said. "Cute." Kota lifted the knife. "Back off. This doesn't involve you." The man in red yawned like he had been waiting all day for something to happen. He took one step forward. One of Kota's friends panicked and threw a punch. His quirk made his arm harden like stone for a second. The punch landed right in the red man's face. There was a wet sound. The red man's head snapped to the side. Kota's friend froze. "2 hit him." The red man's head snapped back. His cheek was already healing. The broken skin closed like it was never there. He rolled his neck, bored. "Okay," he said, calm and cheerful. "That was rude." Kota took a step back. "What the?" The man in red moved. He was there, and then he was not, and then he was behind them. Kota's stomach dropped. A loud crack echoed through the station. A gunshot. Kota's friend screamed and fell, clutching his leg. The stone arm vanished. His mask slipped off. Kota turned and swung the knife. Another crack. The knife flew from his hand. Kota stared at his fingers, shocked. He had all of them. But the pain hit a second later, and his eyes watered. The man in red held 2 large pistols like they were toys. The barrels still smoked. He tilted his head. "You know," he said, "I get dropped into a new place, and the first thing I see is 3 idiots trying to scare a man who just wants to go home. It's almost sweet." Kota tried to run. The shadow on the floor rose like a curtain. It wrapped around Kota's ankles and yanked him down. Kota hit the tiles with a hard thud. The salaryman backed away, staring, mouth open. "Who are you?" the salaryman whispered. The man in red looked at him like he had just noticed him. His smile softened a tiny bit. Not kind. Just less sharp. "A tourist," he said. "A very unwilling tourist." A wind gusted through the open station doors. Feathers drifted in. A man landed on the platform railing like it was nothing. He wore a hero coat and a calm expression. His wings spread wide behind him. Hawks' eyes flicked from the bleeding villains to the red-coated stranger, to the moving shadow on the floor. His smile stayed in place, but his shoulders tensed. "All right," Hawks said, voice light. "This is new." The red man glanced up at him. "Oh, good. A bird." Hawks did not laugh. He studied the guns, the blood, the way the stranger stood like he could handle anything. Hawks lifted one hand slowly. A few feathers floated forward, ready to move fast if needed. "Put the guns down," Hawks said, "and step away from them." The stranger looked at the villains like they were trash on the ground. Then he looked back at Hawks. He grinned. "Sure," he said. But first, who's in charge of this little hero circus? And somewhere in the distance, sirens grew louder. Hawks kept his tone casual on purpose. That was his job. He made dangerous situations feel calm, even when they were not. "Let's start with you," Hawks said. "Name!" The red-coated man's grin widened like he loved the question. "Oh," he said. "You want the paperwork already?" Hawks's feathers shifted. One feather slid close to the stranger's wrist, just close enough to cut if Hawks decided to. The stranger noticed. Of course he noticed. He leaned forward a little, eyes bright. "I like you," he said. "You're polite, but your body says you're ready to stab me." Hawks kept smiling. It's a useful skill. Police and a second hero arrived at the station entrance. The second hero stopped when they saw the blood. Their face went pale. The salaryman was still alive. That mattered. Hawks focused on that. "Did you hurt the civilian?" The stranger turned and pointed at the salaryman with one gun like it was a microphone. "Him? No, he's fine. A bit shaken. Probably needs a warm drink and therapy." The salaryman flinched at being pointed at, but Hawks saw something else. The stranger's finger was off the trigger. He was careless, but not fully stupid. Hawks took another slow step forward. "You hurt the villains." The stranger looked offended. "They started it." One of the villains groaned. He was alive. That lowered the pressure by a tiny amount. But the scene still looked awful. Cameras were already coming out. A person across the street filmed through the glass doors. Hawks felt his phone buzz. Messages. Alerts. The system was already reacting. Hawks raised his voice just enough for the police. "Secure the civilians. Get medics for them." Then he lowered it again. "And you," he told the stranger, "are coming with me." The stranger blinked. "Do I get snacks on the ride?" Hawks paused. "No." "Ah." Hawks did not relax. He guided the stranger outside with feathers hovering near his arms like invisible handcuffs. The stranger went along, almost happily, like he was curious what the hero world would try next. Nezu's office at UA was warmer than the station. It smelled like tea. It looked almost cozy, if you ignored the reinforced door and the hidden cameras. Alucard, because that was the name he finally gave after 3 different funny answers, sat in a chair like he owned it. He crossed one leg over the other. He watched everyone like they were animals in a zoo. Nezu sat behind his desk with a polite smile. All Might stood near the window, big in shape even with his tired posture. His eyes were sharp though. He looked at Alucard like a person and a problem at the same time. Aizawa leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, hair tied back, eyes half-lidded. He looked like he had not slept in a year. He probably hadn't. Hawks stood nearer the door, calm, alert. Detective Tsukochi sat with a folder and a pen. His face was neutral. That was also his job. Nezu spoke first. "Thank you for cooperating so far." Alucard waved one hand. "I'm cooperating because you haven't tried anything funny yet." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "We tried erasure." Alucard turned his head slowly. "That was you?" Aizawa's gaze stayed cold. "Yes." Alucard smiled like he was impressed. "Cute trick." Aizawa's quirk did not turn off Alucard. Not in any clean way. The cameras had shown it. Aizawa stared. Alucard's body still healed. The shadows still moved. Whatever he was, it was not a normal quirk. Nezu tapped the folder. "Our doctors found no sign of quirk factors like we expect. No registration in our systems. Your biology is unusual." Alucard leaned forward. "You're doing great, Tiny Bear." Nezu's ears twitched. "Thank you." All Might cleared his throat. His voice was calm, but the room felt heavier when he spoke. "You hurt people in the station." Alucard looked at him with interest. "And you're the big one." All Might did not rise to the bait. "We save people. We do not punish. We do not kill." Alucard's smile stayed, but it shifted. Less playful. More sharp. "Ah," he said. So this is a hero world with rules. Hawks's feathers flexed. You say that like it's a joke. It is, Alucard said easily. But it's also adorable. Aizawa's voice was flat. You think you're above our laws? Alucard spread his hands. I think your laws don't know what to do with me. That's different. Tsukauchi finally spoke. Tell us what you are. In plain words. Alucard considered that like he was choosing which lie tasted best. I'm an old thing, he said. A monster made to hunt monsters. I was employed. All Might's eyes narrowed. Employed by who? Alucard's grin returned. An organization with good taste in coats. Nezu tilted his head. You are avoiding details. Alucard shrugged. Details are for people who can stop me. The room tightened. All Might did not move, but his presence pushed back. You are in a world where we protect the weak. If you can't respect that, you will become an enemy. Alucard stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled like he had found something interesting. Oh, he said, you really believe that? That's rare. Aizawa pushed off the wall. His eyes stayed on Alucard's face. Belief doesn't change reality. Reality is that you showed up, you used lethal force, and you didn't even care. Alucard's voice turned light again, like flipping a switch. I cared. The civilian lived. All Might's jaw tightened. That is not enough. Nezu lifted a small paw. Let's frame the problem clearly. Nezu's smile stayed polite, but his tone sharpened. You are an unknown entity with unknown limits. The public has already seen you. If we lock you away, we risk panic, or worse. If we let you roam, we risk deaths and fear. So we need a working plan. Alucard leaned back. I love plans. Hawks's eyes narrowed. You love breaking them. Alucard's grin widened. Also true. Nezu continued. For now, you will remain on UA grounds under supervision. You will not approach students without permission. You will not engage criminals without a pro-hero present. And you will not kill. Alucard stared. Aizawa watched him closely, ready for a sudden move. Alucard's laugh came out warm and loud. Oh, he said, you're serious. All Might held his gaze. Yes. Alucard leaned forward, elbows on knees. Okay, question. What happens when a villain tries to kill a child, and your rules slow you down? All Might did not blink. We still saved the child. Alucard's eyes glinted. Even if the villain lives to do it again? Aizawa answered, voice flat. We stop them. We capture them. We use the system. Alucard looked around the room like he was taking notes. So you're a world of hope and paperwork. Nezu's ears twitched again. Paperwork is important. Alucard pointed at Nezu. You get it. Tsukauchi wrote something down, then looked up. How did you arrive here? Alucard lifted a finger. 1 second I was somewhere else. Then I felt a pull, like someone grabbed the back of my coat. Then I landed in your cute station with your cute criminals. Nezu leaned in. A pull. From where? Alucard smiled. From far away. All Might's eyes softened slightly, just for a second. Do you want to go back? Alucard paused. For the first time, his face looked almost still, almost empty. Then the grin returned. I want to not be bored, he said. Where that happens is flexible. Aizawa's mind filed that away as the most dangerous answer in the room. Midoriya Izuku did not sleep well that night. He had been trying to. He really had. But the rumors were everywhere. Students whispered in the halls. Teachers talked quietly. Even present Mike sounded tense. A vampire guy, Kaminari had said at dinner. Like a real one. Midoriya had laughed, but it was shaky. Now he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about blood on tile floors and Hawks's face in the news clips. His phone buzzed again. Another video. Another angle. The red coat. The guns. The shadow moving like a living thing. Midoriya swallowed. Then the room went cold. Not temperature cold. More like the air held its breath. Midoriya's eyes fluttered. He felt himself slip into a dream without choosing it. He stood in a dark place with faint light. The one-for-all space. The vestiges were usually calm. Quiet voices, distant shapes. Tonight, something felt wrong. Like another presence stood near the edge. Not a vestige, not a quirk. Something, hungry and amused. Midoriya turned, heart pounding. Hello? No answer. But he felt it. A distant laugh, like someone watching from behind a curtain. Midoriya woke up sweating. He sat up fast and listened. Outside, the campus was quiet, but he could not shake the feeling that something had entered their world that did not follow the same rules. Elsewhere, far from UA, a man sat in the dark and listened to reports. All for One's face was hidden in shadow. His breathing mask hissed softly. Dr. Garaki stood beside him, hands folded, eyes bright with interest. The footage is poor, Garaki said, but the regeneration is undeniable. All for One's voice was smooth. Guns, shadows, a body that refuses to stay dead. Garaki nodded. It's not a quirk, at least not one we understand. All for One leaned back. Then it is a gift. Garaki's smile widened. Or a blueprint. All for One's fingers tapped the armrest. Find out what it is, what it wants, and how to make it ours. By morning, UA had a new reality. A monster sat in a guest room under heavy watch. Heroes argued in closed rooms. Students whispered in open halls. And Alucard, alone behind reinforced glass, smiled to himself like a person who had finally found a new toy to play with. The limited movement rule lasted less than a day. Not because Alucard broke it first, because the world came for him. It happened in the afternoon, when Musutafu was busy again. People filled sidewalks. Kids held snacks. Office workers checked their phones. Life moved like it always did. And then the first scream hit the air like a knife. A black figure crashed into the street, tearing up asphalt. A body followed, rolling across the ground. A hero landed hard a second later, skidding to a stop. Blood marked their lip. Their eyes were wide. "Evacuate!" they shouted. "Now!" A second later, the Nomu stepped into view. It was huge, stitched, muscles piled on muscles. Its eyes were blank. People froze. Then they ran. Across the street, a swirl of dark mist opened like a door. Tamura Shigaraki stepped out, hands in his pockets, posture loose, smile thin. Kurogiri stood behind him like a shadow in a suit. Shigaraki scratched his neck once, hard, like the skin annoyed him. His eyes scanned the street. "Where is he?" Shigaraki muttered. Kurogiri's voice was calm. "The information says he is at UA." Shigaraki's smile twisted. "Then we make him come to us." He raised one hand and dropped it onto the pavement. The street cracked. The concrete grayed, crumbled, and fell apart like sand. A wide wave of decay raced outward. Cars sank. Streetlights snapped. The ground collapsed into dust. People screamed again. Hawks got the call while he was already in the air. His earpiece crackled. League of Villains spotted downtown. Nomu present. Civilians in danger. Hawk's eyes narrowed. Again? Another voice cut in. A harder one. Endeavor. "I'm en route. Keep them contained." Hawks turned in the sky, wings pushing hard. "Copy." As he flew, Hawks thought one thing, very clearly. This is exactly the kind of chaos that makes a monster useful. And that meant the Commission would make a choice, fast. At UA, alarms blared. Teachers moved. Gates locked. Students were told to stay inside. Aizawa ran down a hallway with his capture scarf ready, already talking into his radio. "We don't let anyone leave," he said. "Not a single student." All Might stepped into the hall, already in motion. Where is the attack? Downtown, Aizawa said. Shigaraki. Nomu. All Might's face tightened. They're escalating. Nezu's voice came in through a speaker. The commission is asking for an option. Aizawa knew what that meant. He hated it. He turned a corner and stopped in front of the reinforced guest room. 2 security staff stood outside. Their hands shook. Inside, Alucard sat on the bed like he had been waiting for the alarm. He looked up at Aizawa. Hi, Alucard said brightly. I'm hearing screaming. That usually means fun. Aizawa's eyes went flat. It means civilians are in danger. Alucard's grin held. Same thing. Aizawa opened the door and stepped in, keeping distance. You don't leave unless I say so, Aizawa said. You don't kill. You don't scare civilians more than they already are. You follow orders. Alucard leaned forward, interested. So you're the tired one who tries to control chaos. Aizawa's stare did not move. Yes. Alucard tilted his head. Are you asking me or ordering me? Aizawa's fingers tightened on his scarf. If you stay, people die. If you go, you might make it worse. So I'm making the choice that saves the most people. Alucard's eyes gleamed. You're doing math with lives. That's adorable. Aizawa did not flinch. This isn't a joke. Alucard stood in one smooth motion. His coat swayed like it weighed nothing. Fine, he said. Let's go save your precious citizens. He stepped toward the door, then paused. Oh, he added, cheerful. Do I get a temporary hero license, or do I just freelance? Aizawa stared at him. Alucard smiled wider. Paperwork first? Aizawa's voice was flat. Move! Alucard laughed and walked past him. Midoriya was in the common room when he heard the staff running. He stood up fast. What's happening? Ida looked tense. There's an attack downtown. Bakugo's eyes lit up with anger. Of course there is! Todoroki rose slowly, calm but sharp. They'll send pros. Midoriya's heart pounded. He thought about the dream, the hungry laugh, the red coat in the videos. Then he saw it. At the end of the hall, flanked by teachers, walked the man in red. Up close, it was worse and more unreal. His smile looked friendly until you stared too long. Then it looked like a predator, smiling. Midoriya swallowed hard. Alucard's eyes flicked toward the students. For a split second, his smile widened like he found them interesting. Aizawa stepped between them at once. Back, all of you! Bakugo bristled. Who is that? Midoriya whispered, almost without meaning to. That's him. Todoroki's gaze stayed steady, but his hand flexed. He doesn't feel like a hero. Alucard leaned a little toward them, voice loud enough to carry. Don't worry, kids. I'm house-trained. Aizawa snapped. Go! Alucard waved at the students with 2 fingers, like a lazy salute, and kept walking. Midoriya's chest felt tight. If the teachers were letting him out, that meant the situation was bad. Downtown looked like a disaster zone when Aizawa arrived. Hawks was already there, feathers whipping through the air like blades, guiding civilians away without cutting them. His face stayed calm, but his eyes were focused and hard. Endeavor landed in a burst of heat, flames rolling off him like a wall. People ran the other way just from the heat. The Nomu roared and charged. Endeavor met it head-on, flames slamming into its chest and forcing it back. The Nomu skidded, digging trenches in broken street. Shigaraki watched from a cracked sidewalk, like this was all a show. Kurogiri hovered near him, portal mist swirling, ready to pull them out. Hawk spoke into his radio. Where's the guest? Aizawa answered, landing on a nearby rooftop. With me. Then Alucard stepped onto the roof edge beside Aizawa, hands in his coat pockets like he was on a casual walk. He looked down at the collapsing street and the running civilians. His smile did not fade. Okay, he said softly. That's better. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Rules. Remember. Alucard glanced at him. Sure. He jumped. Not down like a normal person. He dropped like a bullet, coat flaring, landing in the street with a heavy thud that cracked the already damaged pavement. A nearby group of civilians screamed and stumbled back. Hawks cursed under his breath. Great, subtle. Alucard turned his head toward them. Hey, he called, voice bright. Run that way. The yelling one is hot, but he's on your side. Endeavor shot him a look that could burn steel. Who are you? Alucard grinned. A consultant. Then the Nomu charged Alucard. It moved faster than its size should allow. It swung a fist like a wrecking ball. Alucard did not dodge. The fist hit him square in the chest. There was a dull impact. Alucard's body flew back through a shattered bus stop, smashed into the side of a building, and slid down the wall. Endeavor's eyes widened. Hawks's feathers paused for half a second. Aizawa's stomach tightened. Then Alucard stood up like he had tripped, not been punched through concrete. He brushed dust off his coat. He looked at the Nomu like it was a disappointing dog. Okay, Alucard said. You're strong. That's cute too. The Nomu roared again and lunged. Alucard moved. This time he was not where the Nomu swung. He was behind it, close enough to touch. He raised one pistol and fired. The shot hit the back of the Nomu's head. The force snapped its skull forward. The Nomu staggered but did not fall. Alucard fired again, and again. The sound echoed through the ruined street like a drumbeat. Endeavor clenched his jaw. Bullets won't stop it. Alucard tilted his head. Then I'll use more bullets. The Nomu spun and caught Alucard with a backhand. Alucard's head snapped off his shoulders. It hit the ground and rolled. A nearby civilian screamed so hard they choked. Aizawa's eyes widened despite himself. Alucard's body did not fall. It stood there, headless, steady. Then the shadows under the body rose like hands. They grabbed the rolling head and lifted it. The head laughed. The neck reformed with wet, fast movement, like the body was remembering its shape. In 2 seconds, Alucard was whole again. He winked at the terrified civilian. Don't worry, he said. I do that. Hawks's voice went tight. That's not helping. Aizawa forced himself to focus. Evac faster! Endeavor blasted the Nomu again, forcing it away from the crowd. Hawks, get civilians clear! Aizawa, lock Shigaraki down if you can. Shigaraki's eyes narrowed when he heard his name. He stepped forward and put one hand on the ground again. Decay spread like a fast stain. The street crumbled into dust in a widening circle. Cars sank. The base of a nearby building weakened. A chunk of brick fell from above. A child froze in the open, staring up, too shocked to move. Midoriya would have moved first. That's who he was. But Midoriya wasn't here. Hawks shot forward with a burst of speed, feathers catching the child and yanking them back. Endeavor fired upward, melting falling debris before it hit anyone. Aizawa leaped, scarf snapping out, trying to snag Shigaraki's wrist from a distance. Kurogiri's mist shifted, ready. Alucard watched all of it like he was watching a game. Then his eyes locked on Shigaraki. His grin sharpened. Oh, Alucard said, pleased. You must be the one who thinks he's important. Shigaraki's face twisted. What are you? Alucard walked forward through crumbling ground like he didn't care about footing. The shadows under him moved like they were choosing where to place him. I'm bored, Alucard said, and you look like a stress toy. Shigaraki's fingers twitched. I'm going to erase you. Alucard laughed. Try. Shigaraki lunged. He was fast. Faster than most people expected from him. His hand shot toward Alucard's chest. Aizawa's eyes flared red as he activated erasure on Shigaraki, trying to stop decay from spreading if Shigaraki touched anything. But Shigaraki did not need a big wave. He only needed one touch. His palm hit Alucard's chest. For a split second, Alucard's coat and skin turned gray. Then the chest started to crumble. Aizawa's breath caught. Hawk's feathers stopped again. Endeavor shouted, "Move!" Alucard looked down at his own chest collapsing. He smiled wider. "Oh," he said, voice bright with interest. "That's a fun trick." His upper body broke apart into dust. His head fell, then crumbled too. For a moment, there was nothing. Shigaraki's eyes widened. He looked almost satisfied. Then the shadows behind Shigaraki rose. They did not come from Alucard's body. They came from the ground, the walls, the broken street itself. A dark shape formed behind Shigaraki, tall and smiling. Alucard stepped out of it like he had just walked through a door. He was whole. He leaned close to Shigaraki's ear. "Did you think that would work?" Alucard whispered. Shigaraki jerked away like someone had touched a nerve. Kurogiri reacted instantly. A portal opened between them, mist swirling. Aizawa's scarf snapped forward, aiming for Shigaraki's arm. Endeavor surged closer, flames roaring. Hawk sent a cluster of feathers toward Kurogiri's collar, trying to disrupt the portal's shape. Everything happened at once. Shigaraki snarled and slammed his hand down again. Even with erasure, his body still moved, his intent still violent. The ground was already broken enough that even without full decay, the street began to collapse under stress and damage. Civilians screamed as the pavement cracked near them. Endeavor stopped his chase for half a second to create a flame wall, keeping people back from the collapsing edge. Hawks diverted feathers to lift two adults off unstable ground. Aizawa cursed under his breath. He could not chase Shigaraki if the civilians were about to fall. Alucard watched the heroes split their focus. He understood the rule now. They would always choose people over victory. He smiled like he respected it, and also like he wanted to test it. Alucard lifted one pistol and aimed straight at Shigaraki's head. A clean shot. A sure shot. Aizawa saw it and snapped, "Don't!" Endeavor barked, "No lethal." Hawk's feathers twitched, ready to intercept. Alucard's finger tightened. Then he stopped. Not because he feared them, because the moment itself was funny. Because three heroes who could not stop him were ordering him like he was a student. Alucard sighed dramatically and lowered the gun. "Fine," he said, loud enough for Shigaraki to hear. "You get to live, because the babysitters said so." Shigaraki's eyes burned with rage and something else. Being spared. Being dismissed. He hated it more than being hurt. Kurogiri's portal opened wider. Mist pulled at Shigaraki's coat. Shigaraki pointed at Alucard as he backed into the portal. "I'm going to break you," he hissed. "I'm going to take that smile off your face." Alucard waved. "Get in line." Then Shigaraki vanished into the dark mist. The Nomu, still fighting Endeavor, took a step back as if it had been commanded. Its blank eyes flicked toward the retreating portal. Hawks shouted, "It's leaving!" Endeavor blasted it hard one last time, sending it crashing through a broken storefront. The Nomu hit the ground, then twitched, then went still. Not dead, but out. For now. The street was quiet for one breath. Then the sounds returned. Sirens, crying, people calling names, heroes shouting directions. Aizawa dropped to one knee on the rooftop edge, not from injury, but from the strain of keeping his eyes on targets and civilians at the same time. Hawks landed beside him, breathing controlled but fast. "They came for him," Hawks said quietly. Aizawa's voice was flat. "Yes." Endeavor walked up, flames dimming but not gone. He looked at Alucard like he was staring at a fire that refused to be contained. "You disobeyed orders," Endeavor said. Alucard smiled. "I obeyed the important part. I didn't kill your crumbly boy." Endeavor's jaw tightened. "You were about to." Alucard shrugged. "Yes." Hawk's eyes narrowed. "That's not comforting." Alucard looked at Hawks like Hawks was a funny pet. "You people are adorable," he said again, softer. You fight monsters and still believe rules can hold. Aizawa stood, tired eyes fixed on Alucard. They can, because we choose them. Alucard held Aizawa's gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded once, like he was logging the answer away. Okay, he said. Then let's see how long that choice lasts. In the distance, cameras flashed. Reporters were already arriving. People were already uploading videos. This time, the footage was clear. The red-coated stranger being punched through a wall and standing up like it was nothing. His head coming off and coming back. A villain touching him and turning him to dust. And him returning anyway. By the time the sun began to set, Musutafu had a new story to tell. And both sides of the war, heroes and villains, understood the same thing. Whatever that man was, he was not a normal person. He was a world-changing problem. And now, the world had seen him. The next morning, the city felt like it had a bruise. Hawk saw it from above. News vans lined the streets near the broken block. Camera crews pointed lenses at the cracked pavement and the boarded-up shops. People stood behind police tape, staring at the spot where a red coat had stood and laughed at death. Hawks landed on a rooftop and took out his phone. His feed was a flood. A dozen shaky videos, a dozen clean ones. Slow-motion clips of the stranger's head rolling and then snapping back onto his neck like it was normal. Clips of Shigaraki turning him to dust, and then the stranger stepping out of a shadow behind Shigaraki like a magic trick. Some posts called him a hero. Most did not. Hawk scrolled to a clip with the most views. The title was huge and dramatic. Monster in Musutafu. Heroes can't stop him. Hawks exhaled through his nose. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that the clip wasn't wrong. He tucked the phone away and looked down at the crowd. He could read faces from this height. Fear, excitement, anger, curiosity, all mixed together. Fear is a fire, Hawks thought. It spreads fast. It makes people do dumb things. His earpiece crackled. Hawks, commission meeting, now! The voice was calm, too calm. Hawks turned and pushed into the air with a strong wing beat. Copy. As he flew, he pictured that red smile again, like a kid who had found a new game. And he pictured the commission's smile too. Not wide, not loud, but just as dangerous. Inside UA, the rumors did not slow down. They just moved into whispers. Midoriya kept his eyes on his notebook all morning, but his pen barely moved. Every time he tried to write, his mind jumped back to the videos. Not the gore, not the blood. The way the stranger looked at Shigaraki. Like Shigaraki was not the main threat. Like Shigaraki was entertainment. Midoriya had seen All Might face monsters. He had seen Endeavor fight like a man trying to burn the world clean. He had seen heroes who were larger than life. But this was different. This stranger did not feel like a hero or a villain. He felt like a rule that didn't belong in their world. At lunch, Midoriya sat with Ida and Uraraka. Neither of them ate much. Ida's glasses flashed as he adjusted them too hard. The staff is not telling us details, but the situation is clearly severe. Uraraka's hands twisted in her lap. My parents texted me. They asked if I'm safe. They asked if that guy is near our school. Midoriya swallowed. He is. Ida's posture stiffened. He should not be. Midoriya nodded, but part of him hesitated. He remembered the civilian in the station, the way the stranger had spoken to him. Sharp, yes. Cold, yes. But the civilian had lived. Midoriya stared at his tray. He saved people yesterday. Uraraka looked up quickly, but he scared them too. Midoriya didn't argue, because she was right. A hero had to be more than a wall between danger and people. A hero had to be someone people could trust. And the red stranger looked like the kind of thing that ate trust. All Might waited until the afternoon to call Midoriya into his office. The office door shut softly behind them. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that made Midoriya's heartbeat sound too loud. All Might stood by the window in his thin form, arms crossed, face serious. Midoriya bowed fast. "You wanted to see me, All Might." All Might turned. His eyes were gentle, but tired. "Young Midoriya, sit." Midoriya sat on the edge of the chair, like he might be told to run at any second. All Might studied him. "You've been thinking about him." Midoriya's mouth opened, then closed. He nodded. "Yes, sir." All Might's voice stayed calm. "Tell me what you feel." Midoriya hesitated. Then he spoke, because All Might asked questions that deserved real answers. "I feel scared," Midoriya admitted. "Not just because he's strong, because he doesn't care about dying, and he doesn't care about what it looks like when he wins." All Might nodded slowly. "That is a smart fear." Midoriya looked down at his hands. "But I also feel confused. He protected people. He didn't have to. He could have walked away." All Might leaned against the desk. "Many dangerous people protect others for the wrong reasons." Midoriya looked up. "Do you think he's evil?" All Might paused. That pause was heavy. "I think," All Might said carefully, "that he is a person who has lived a very long time without the kind of hope we try to protect. That can twist someone, even if they start with good intentions." Midoriya swallowed. "Can we help him?" All Might's eyes softened. "We can try, but we must protect others first." Midoriya nodded. "Yes, sir." All Might stepped closer, voice lower. "And there is another reason I called you here." Midoriya's stomach tightened. All Might's gaze sharpened. "You are the kind of person who reaches out when others pull back. That is your strength." Midoriya felt heat rise in his face. All Might raised a hand. "But it can also be a weakness if you reach out without seeing the trap." Midoriya froze. "A trap?" All Might turned toward the window again, looking out at the school grounds. "Villains will use anything that shakes society. They will use fear. They will use rumors. They will use you." Midoriya's mouth went dry. All Might's voice stayed steady. "Do not go looking for him. Do not approach him alone. If he speaks to you, be polite. But be careful." Midoriya nodded fast. "I understand." All Might glanced back, a flicker of pain in his eyes. "I hate giving you that advice, but this is not a normal situation." Midoriya nodded again, but inside he felt something twist, because part of him still wanted to understand, and that part of him didn't care how dangerous the answer might be. Aizawa did not sleep that night either. He sat in a chair outside the reinforced guest room with a coffee he didn't want. His eyes burned. He kept them open anyway. Inside the room, Alucard sat at a small table. Someone had given him papers, because someone had made a mistake. Aizawa had heard the request. He had thought it was a joke. Alucard wanted the rule book, not a hero handbook for students, not a law summary. He wanted actual regulations, licensing requirements, use of force rules, detainment limits, public safety policy. Alucard held a pen like he was pretending to be a serious person. He made little notes in the margins. Every few minutes he laughed quietly. Aizawa stared through the glass. "What are you doing?" Alucard didn't look up. "Learning." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Why?" Alucard tapped the paper. "Because you people are fascinating." Aizawa waited. Alucard finally looked up, eyes bright. "You built a whole society around superpowers and decided the strongest people should follow rules. That's funny. That's brave. That's also fragile." Aizawa's voice was flat. "It's necessary." Alucard smiled. "Sure. For you." Aizawa's capture scarf rested on his lap like a sleeping snake. "And for you. If you plan to stay here, you follow those rules." Alucard leaned back, stretching like a cat. "Or what? You'll suspend me?" Aizawa didn't react. You think this is a game? Alucard's smile sharpened. It is. Everything is. Aizawa's stomach turned, but his face stayed calm. You have a problem with boredom. Alucard's eyes widened a little, like he enjoyed being seen. Look at you. Therapist. Aizawa's voice stayed steady. Bored people with power become cruel. Cruel people become disasters. Alucard stared at him for a moment. Then his grin returned. Slower now. You're the Batman type, aren't you? Always tired, always suspicious, always one bad day away from biting someone. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Don't compare me to something you don't understand. Alucard laughed. Oh, I understand you perfectly. You think you can hold back the flood with your hands. You think if you stare hard enough, chaos will behave. Aizawa leaned forward slightly. And you think if you laugh at everything, nothing can touch you. Alucard's smile flickered, just for a blink. Then it came back, wider, louder. Okay, that was good. Aizawa didn't smile. Tell me your real name. Alucard tilted his head. I told you, Alucard. Aizawa's gaze didn't move. That's not a normal name. Alucard's grin turned playful again. It's a great name. Aizawa stared. Alucard sighed dramatically, like he was being forced to explain a very simple joke. Fine, it's Dracula backwards. Aizawa went still. For the first time in hours, his tired brain snapped fully awake. You're joking, Aizawa said. Alucard smiled like a kid who just pulled a coin from behind someone's ear. Am I? Aizawa's voice went colder. Are you actually that Dracula? Alucard shrugged. Labels, labels. I'm a vampire. I drink blood. I shoot people. I regenerate. I have shadows that do whatever I want. If you want to call me a fairy tale, go ahead. Aizawa's grip tightened on his scarf. If you're a vampire, you're not human. Alucard leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Oh, I'm very human. I'm just more. Aizawa held his gaze. Then he stood up and walked away from the glass, because if he stayed there any longer, his tired mind might make a mistake. As he walked down the hall, Aizawa thought one clear thought. The Commission is going to love this. They did. Hawk sat in a sleek meeting room with 5 people who smiled too politely. There was a long table, a screen on the wall, a pitcher of water no one touched. At the head of the table sat a woman in a dark suit. Her hair was neat. Her posture was perfect. Her eyes were calm and empty in a professional way. Hawks had met her twice before. That was enough. She folded her hands. Thank you for coming, Hawks. Hawks smiled. You sounded urgent. A man beside her clicked a remote. The screen lit up with clips. Alucard stepping out of shadow at the station. Bullets. Blood. Regeneration. Alucard turning to dust and returning behind Shigaraki. The woman watched Hawks' face while the clips played. This is not a quirk. Hawks shrugged. Looks like it. It does not, she corrected, still calm. It is an anomaly. Unknown origin. Unknown limits. High public exposure. Hawks leaned back. So, what's the plan? The woman's smile did not change. We turn a crisis into an asset. Hawk's eyes narrowed. He's not a person to you. He is a risk, she said, and risks can be managed. Hawks's feathers twitched slightly. Managed how? A second person spoke, voice eager. Containment protocols, behavior agreements, surveillance, a public narrative. Hawks raised an eyebrow. A narrative. The woman nodded. The public needs a story they can understand. A foreign villain is unacceptable. A government-controlled special hero is acceptable. Hawks felt a chill. You can't control him. The woman's smile sharpened by a fraction. We can control access. We can control resources. We can control consequences. And we can control the people around him. Hawks understood what that meant. Students, teachers, Hostages made of reputation. He kept his smile on, because that was his job. And if he refuses? The woman looked at him like it was a silly question. Then we create reasons for him to agree. Hawks's voice stayed light. You want me to be the friendly face? Yes, she said. You have rapport. Hawks almost laughed. Rapport. The vampire had called him a bird. Hawks tilted his head. What do you want from him? The woman tapped the screen. The clip froze on Alucard, reforming from shadow. His immortality, she said, his combat effectiveness, and his deterrence value. Hawk's smile tightened. And what does he want? The woman's eyes stayed steady. Permission. Hawks blinked. She continued, calm as reading a report. He asked for regulations. He asked about licensing. He wants a leash that looks official. Hawk's mind flashed back to Alucard's grin. Paperwork first? Hawks exhaled slowly. He's playing. The woman nodded. Then we play back. Hawks's smile stayed on, but it felt heavy now. I'll talk to him. Good, she said. And Hawks. He looked at her. Her voice remained soft. Do not forget your role. This is bigger than your feelings. Hawks's smile did not reach his eyes. Yeah, I know. But as he left the room, he thought about the civilians who ran in fear yesterday. And he wondered how many more would run when the Commission tried to turn a monster into a badge. Alucard met Hawks in a training room built like a bunker. Thick walls, reinforced floor, cameras in every corner, a viewing window with tinted glass. Aizawa stood near the door, arms crossed. Nezu sat behind a desk with a teacup. Alucard stood in the center, like the room was made for him. He looked at Hawks and grinned. Hello, bird. Here to give me a collar? Hawks smiled back, smooth and careful. More like paperwork. Alucard's eyes lit up. Oh, you brought treats. Nezu's ears twitched. This is an official conversation. Alucard turned to Nezu. Hi, tiny bear. Love the tiny suit? Nezu smiled politely. Thank you. Hawks cleared his throat. All right. Straight talk. People are scared. The Commission is scared. Heroes are arguing. Villains are excited. Alucard spread his hands. Sounds like a party. Hawks kept his tone calm. We need to stop this from turning into chaos. Alucard's grin widened. Chaos is already here. Hawks stepped closer, just out of easy grabbing range. So, here's the offer. A temporary legal status, limited operations, supervision, clear rules. Alucard's eyes gleamed like someone offered him a new toy. A license. Aizawa's voice was flat. A leash. Alucard laughed. Same thing. Nezu spoke, measured. If you agree, you help us protect civilians without increasing fear. Alucard tilted his head. And if I disagree? Aizawa's eyes narrowed. Then we treat you like a threat. Alucard's smile did not fade. Adorable. Hawks held up a folder. We call it special cooperation. You get missions. You get targets. You get permission to engage villains when needed. Alucard's eyes flicked to the cameras, and I get to be your pet. Hawk's smile stayed. Something like that. Alucard walked in a slow circle, boots tapping. Let me guess. No killing. Minimal collateral. Follow hero orders. Smile for the camera. Aizawa watched him like a hawk watching a bomb. Yes. Alucard stopped and stared at Aizawa. You're really committed to that no-killing thing. Aizawa didn't blink. Yes. Alucard's grin turned sharp. Even if the villain tries to kill your kids. Aizawa's jaw tightened. Yes. Alucard looked at Hawks. Even if that crumbly boy comes back and kills 10 more people. Hawks's smile turned smaller. We stop him. Alucard laughed softly. Sure. Nezu set his cup down. We are not asking you to become a hero. We are asking you to not become a disaster. Alucard looked thoughtful for a moment, like he was actually considering it. Then he snapped his fingers. A shadow rose from the floor like a living ribbon. It formed a small, perfect stamp shape in the air. a round seal with fancy edges. Alucard held out his hand like a businessman. "Fine," he said brightly. "I'll sign your agreement." Hawks blinked. "You... what?" Alucard produced a pen from nowhere, flipped it, and clicked it. "Where do I sign?" Aizawa stared. "You're serious?" Alucard smiled wide. "Oh, I'm very serious. This is the funniest thing I've done in years." Hawks opened the folder slowly, unsure if this was a trap or a miracle. Alucard took the pen and paused. "Do you have a blood clause?" Hawks sighed. "No." Alucard looked disappointed. Weak. He signed anyway, in neat, dramatic handwriting. Then he leaned back and spread his arms. "Congratulations. You have hired the monster." Aizawa's voice was flat. "If you break the terms..." Alucard finished for him, cheerful. "You'll glare at me harder." Yes, I'm terrified." Nezu smiled politely, but his eyes were sharp. "We will begin with controlled missions." Alucard's grin returned to full power. "Give me something big." Hawk's voice stayed calm. "We will." And in a dark room far away, All for One smiled without showing his face, because he had just heard that the heroes had put a leash on their own throat. That night, Shigaraki sat in a warehouse with crumbling concrete floors. He scratched his neck until the skin turned red. He stared at a wall with a hole punched through it. Kurogiri stood nearby, silent. Shigaraki's voice was rough. "He laughed at me." Kurogiri's tone was smooth. "He is unusual." Shigaraki slammed his fist into the wall. Dust fell. "I'm not a joke." Kurogiri didn't respond. Shigaraki's eyes flicked to the side. "Where's the boss?" A new voice answered from the darkness, calm and warm like poison. "Here." Shigaraki stiffened. "Sensei." All for One's presence filled the room even before he fully stepped into the light. His breathing mask hissed softly. Shigaraki's voice turned sharp with need. "Let me fight him again." All for One chuckled. "And what will you do differently?" Shigaraki clenched his fists. "I'll kill him." All for One's voice remained gentle. "You tried." Shigaraki's mouth twisted. "Then tell me how." All for One's head tilted slightly. "We do not beat him with strength. We beat him with structure." Shigaraki stared. "Structure?" All for One's tone was patient, like teaching a child. "Heroes need rules. They need trust. They need the public." Shigaraki's fingers twitched. "So?" All for One leaned in slightly. "So we make him poison their trust. We make him break their rules. We make the public see him as proof that heroes are liars." Shigaraki's eyes narrowed. "And if he doesn't break?" All for One's smile could be heard in his voice. "Then we force the choice. We create a situation where saving people requires breaking the rules." Shigaraki scratched his neck again, hard. "I want him to suffer." All for One's tone stayed soft. "He will." Then he glanced toward the side where Dr. Garaki stepped into view. Garaki's eyes shined behind his glasses. "I have begun designing a device," he said, eager. "Not to kill him, to hold him." Shigaraki's gaze snapped to him. "You can do that?" Garaki's smile widened. "I can try." All for One nodded. "Try harder." Garaki bowed slightly. "Of course." All for One looked back at Shigaraki. "For now, we let the heroes believe they have control. Let them build a cage." Shigaraki's nails dug into his palms. "And then?" All for One's voice was almost kind. "And then we break the cage while everyone is watching." The first controlled mission was supposed to be simple. A supply transport had been hit 3 times this week. Each time, a small villain group used quirks to disable vehicles and steal support gear. The thieves were not top tier, but they were organized, fast, and careful. The Commission wanted a clean win, a win that looked good on camera, a win that showed the public that the Red Stranger was under control. Aizawa hated the plan the moment he saw it. He stood in the briefing room with Hawks, Endeavor, and 2 other pro-heroes. Nezu watched from the side. A commission representative stood behind them with a tablet, smiling politely. Alucard sat at the table like this was a business meeting. He wore his red coat. He had his guns. Someone had tried to tell him not to bring them. He had laughed until they stopped trying. Hawks pointed at a map. Transport route. We set a decoy. We catch the thieves. No civilian harm. No deaths. Alucard raised a hand. Question. Hawks sighed lightly. Yes? Alucard smiled. Do I get a badge? The commission rep cleared their throat. You will be given identification. Alucard's eyes lit up like a child on a holiday. Oh my God, yes! Aizawa's voice was flat. Focus. Alucard leaned back. I am focusing. I'm focusing on how funny it will be when I show my vampire ID to a cop. Endeavor's eyes narrowed. If you make jokes in the field, I will... Alucard looked at him. You'll what? Burn me? Endeavor's flames flared slightly. Alucard smiled wider. Please do. I want to see if it tickles. Hawk stepped between them with a practiced calm. All right, enough. We run the operation clean. We keep cameras on. We show the public what they need to see. Aizawa's eyes narrowed at Hawks, a silent warning. Hawks met it with a tiny shrug that said, I know. I hate it too. Nezu spoke softly. Remember the priority. Civilians first. Alucard nodded. Always. Because then, the villains have to work harder to hurt you. No one laughed. Because it was true. In the worst way. The convoy rolled at dusk. 2 armored trucks. 1 ordinary-looking van. 3 pro-heroes on rooftops and in alley shadows. Hawks in the air. Endeavor on a parallel street. Flames low to avoid panic. Aizawa on a nearby rooftop, eyes scanning for movement. Alucard sat in the van, humming like he was on a road trip. He held his new ID card up to the window, admiring it. It didn't say, hero. Not officially. It said, Special Cooperation Operative. Alucard grinned. I'm basically a cop. Aizawa's voice crackled in the earpiece. Don't say that. Alucard chuckled. Too late. The convoy reached the narrow intersection where the thieves had struck before. Aizawa's eyes sharpened. A small flash in the corner of his vision. A figure on a rooftop. A flicker of movement behind a billboard. He spoke into the radio, low. Contact. Multiple. Hawks' voice replied instantly. I see them. 3 on the left roof. 2 on ground. Endeavor's voice rumbled. I'm ready. The van slowed slightly, like it was vulnerable. The thieves took the bait. A wall of hardened foam erupted from the street, blocking the lead truck. A quirk user on a rooftop threw a sticky web-like substance to bind the back wheels. The convoy stopped. Then smoke grenades popped, filling the intersection with thick gray clouds. Civilians nearby screamed and ran. Aizawa cursed. They brought civilians into it. Hawks' wings snapped open wider. Feathers shot into the smoke, slicing the grenade casings and cutting straps on stolen gear before it could be moved. Endeavor surged forward, flames rising just enough to blow smoke away in controlled bursts. In the van, Alucard's grin widened. Finally, he said, and opened the door. Aizawa's voice snapped in his ear. Wait for the signal. Alucard stepped out anyway. He walked into the smoke like it was a stage curtain. A thief lunged at him, quirk making their arms stretch like rubber bands with heavy claws at the ends. The claws ripped into Alucard's chest. Blood splashed. The thief recoiled in shock, expecting a scream. Alucard looked down at the torn coat with mild annoyance. Do you know how hard it is to find a coat that looks this good? The thief tried to pull back. Alucard grabbed the stretched arm and yanked. The thief flew forward, slammed into Alucard's knee, and hit the ground hard. Alucard placed one boot on their shoulder, pinning them. He lifted his gun. Aizawa's voice cracked like a whip. No lethal! Alucard sighed dramatically and fired into the pavement next to the thief's head. The sound made the thief flinch so hard they nearly fainted. Alucard leaned down, smiling. "Relax. I'm on a leash." He turned his head slightly, listening. Footsteps, heartbeats, panic breaths. He could sense them like dots on a map. "Two more behind the truck," Alucard called out, loud. "One above us. One trying to grab the driver." Hawks's voice went tight. "How do you—" Alucard smiled. "I have hobbies." Aizawa's eyes narrowed from the rooftop. This was not a quirk, not in any way he understood. But the information was correct. Hawks dove, feathers slicing through the smoke, pinning one thief's arms to a wall without cutting skin. Endeavor blasted a controlled flame burst that melted the hardened foam enough for the truck to move again. Aizawa dropped down, scarf snapping out, catching another thief and slamming them to the ground. It was almost clean. Almost. Then the streetlights went out. Not one, not two. All of them. The intersection plunged into an eerie dimness, lit only by Endeavor's fire and the headlights of stopped vehicles. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "That's not them." Hawk's wings twitched. "I didn't see anyone do that." Alucard's smile widened. "Now," he said softly, "this is the good part." A new sound rolled through the air, a deep, wet growl. A Nomu dropped from above like a falling truck. It hit the intersection and cracked the road. This Nomu was different from the one earlier. Smaller, faster. Its skin looked darker and tougher. Its eyes tracked targets like it could actually think. And strapped around its torso was a metal harness covered in strange markings and wires. Garaki's work. Aizawa's stomach tightened. Hawks's voice went sharp. "Nomu! Civilians still nearby!" Endeavor surged forward, flames roaring. "Get them out!" But the Nomu didn't charge Endeavor. It charged Alucard, like it had been trained to. Alucard laughed, delighted. "Oh, you brought me a toy!" The Nomu slammed into him, driving him through the side of the van. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Alucard's body hit the ground hard. The Nomu raised a fist and smashed down. Once, twice, 3 times. Each hit cratered the pavement. Aizawa's eyes widened. Even with Alucard's regeneration, that was violent enough to turn most bodies into paste. Then Alucard's hand shot up from the crater and grabbed the Nomu's wrist. He squeezed. Bone cracked. The Nomu roared, and the harness on its body lit up with a faint red glow. A pulse spread outward. For a split second, the shadows around Alucard stiffened, like something tugged on them, like a hook caught in fabric. Alucard's grin faded. Just a little. Aizawa felt his blood go cold. Something had touched Alucard in a way Shigaraki's decay hadn't. The Nomu leaned down, mouth opening too wide, and a needle-like spike shot toward Alucard's neck. Aizawa's scarf snapped out, wrapping the spike mid-flight and yanking it sideways. Hawks's feathers slammed into the Nomu's shoulder, trying to pin it in place. Endeavor blasted it with a fire spear that should have burned through most flesh. The Nomu staggered, but it did not stop. The harness glowed brighter. Alucard's body started to break apart again, not into dust, but into a darker, thicker smoke, like something was trying to pull him out of himself. Alucard's eyes widened with real interest. "Oh," he said, voice lower, "that is new." Aizawa's mind raced. A device that affects him. A device built with intent. Built with knowledge. This wasn't random villain chaos. This was planned. Hawk shouted, "Aizawa, civilians!" Aizawa looked, and his gut clenched. 2 civilians had stumbled in the smoke, a child and a mother. The mother's foot was trapped under fallen foam. The child was trying to pull her. The Nomu's next swing would hit them. Endeavor moved, but he was a half step too far. Hawks's feathers shot forward, but the smoke made it hard to see. Aizawa's scarf was tied up on the Nomu's spike. And Alucard. Alucard could have ended the Nomu. Aizawa could feel it. Even pressed, Alucard's presence was huge, like a tank in a room full of bicycles. But the harness was tugging at him, trying to hold him, trying to turn him into something that could be contained. Aizawa saw the trap clearly now. Save the civilians and let the Nomu escape with data. Or chase the Nomu and risk the civilians. Heroes always chose civilians. Villains knew that. Alucard's head turned slightly, eyes locking onto the mother and child. His smile returned. Not playful. Hungry. He whispered almost to himself, "You want me to break the rules on camera?" Aizawa's heart dropped. "Don't." Alucard laughed softly. "Relax, Batman." Then he did something Aizawa did not expect. Alucard let the harness pull harder. He let his body break into shadow smoke. And instead of fighting the pull, he slid through it. Like slipping through a crack. The Nomu's fist swung toward the civilians. And Alucard reformed in front of them. The fist hit Alucard's back and tore through him, ripping him open, sending blood across the street. But the fist did not reach the civilians. The mother screamed. The child cried. Alucard's body healed as he stood there like a shield. He turned his head slowly, eyes bright, and spoke without looking back. "Run," he said, voice calm. "If you trip, I'll be annoyed." The mother did not understand the tone, but she understood the command. She grabbed the child and limped away as Hawks's feathers cut the foam free. Endeavor surged in, flames roaring, slamming into the Nomu and driving it back. Aizawa yanked his scarf free and snapped it around the Nomu's neck. Hawks pinned its arms. For a second, they had it. Then the harness flashed. A portal of dark mist opened behind the Nomu. Kurogiri. Aizawa's eyes widened. "No!" The Nomu was pulled backward into the portal like a hooked fish. Hawks's feathers tore the edge of the mist, but it didn't matter. The Nomu vanished. The harness glow disappeared with it. The street fell into a tense quiet, broken only by sirens and sobs. Endeavor's flames lowered, but his face was furious. Hawks's smile was gone. He looked cold now. Aizawa's chest tightened. They took it. Hawks's voice was low. They tested him. Endeavor turned to Alucard. "You let it escape." Alucard wiped blood off his cheek with 2 fingers like it was paint. He looked pleased. "They got what they wanted," Alucard said. "They learned the leash works." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "And you learned something too." Alucard smiled wider. "Yes, your villains are finally getting creative." Endeavor's teeth clenched. This is not a game. Alucard looked at him like Endeavor was shouting at the ocean for being wet. "Everything is a game," Alucard said. "Some games just have screaming." Hawks stared at the empty air where the portal had been. The public saw this. Aizawa's stomach sank. Cameras, civilian phones, news drones. The commission had wanted a clean win. Instead, they got a new headline. Nomu attack during government operation. And the vampire still can't be controlled. Alucard tucked his guns away like the fight had been mild exercise. "So," he said cheerfully, "do I get a promotion?" Aizawa didn't answer, because in his head, one thought kept repeating like a warning alarm. They just proved he can be targeted. And the villain who can target him is the one villain we can't afford to give more power. Later that night, Nezu sat in his office with a stack of reports. He drank tea that had gone cold. Aizawa stood near the window again, face tired and hard. Hawks leaned against the wall, wings drooping slightly with exhaustion. The commission representative sat at the desk across from Nezu, hands folded, expression calm. Alucard sat in a chair off to the side like he was waiting for dessert. Nezu spoke first, gentle. "Today's operation did not go as planned." The commission rep nodded. "Correct. Public response is mixed." Hawks snorted quietly. "Mixed is one word." The representative's smile did not change. "The public is frightened, but fear can be directed." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. You're talking about propaganda. The rep blinked slowly. We are talking about stability. Nezu's voice stayed polite. We are also talking about safety. The Nomu had a device designed to interact with our guest. Alucard raised a hand. For the record, that was rude. No one laughed. Alucard pouted. Tough crowd. Hawks looked at the rep. Where did they get the idea he wants permission? The rep's eyes flicked to Hawks. We observe. We listen. We prepare. Aizawa's voice went colder. You're spying on him inside UA. The rep did not deny it. We are protecting the country. Nezu's smile stayed, but his tone sharpened. UA is not your playground. The rep's eyes remained calm. Then we will move him. Aizawa went still. Move him where? Where we can secure him, the rep said. A commission facility. Nezu's ears twitched. Hawks's feathers rose slightly. Alucard's grin widened like he'd been waiting for this line. Oh, you want to take me to your little government basement? Is there a nice view? Do I get a window? Aizawa stared at him. This isn't funny. Alucard's eyes glittered. It's hilarious. The commission rep turned to Alucard. You have been offered cooperation. You have been given rules. And in return, we will give you structure and purpose. Alucard leaned forward. And permission? Yes, the rep said, but only if you prove you can follow our boundaries. Alucard smiled. So you want a monster who obeys. The rep's voice stayed even. We want a weapon that protects civilians. Alucard's grin did not fade, but it turned sharper. A weapon doesn't protect. A weapon is pointed. Aizawa's eyes narrowed further. Nezu spoke softly. We will not hand him over blindly. The rep's gaze stayed steady. Then you leave us with fewer options. Hawks's voice cut in, light but dangerous. He's not a dog. He's not a tool. And he's not yours. The rep looked at Hawks, patient. This is bigger than you. Hawks smiled without warmth. Everything is bigger than me. That's why I fly smarter. Nezu set his tea down. Here is what we will do. We will keep him at UA for now, but we will allow commission oversight on operations. Aizawa's jaw tightened. Hawks's eyes narrowed. The rep nodded once, satisfied. Alucard clapped slowly. Excellent. Everyone's unhappy. That means it's fair. Aizawa looked at Alucard. If you want permission so badly, why? Alucard tilted his head. Why do I want a leash? Aizawa didn't blink. Yes. Alucard's smile softened into something almost honest. Almost. Because, he said lightly, it's fun to see if your world can handle a monster who plays by your rules. Aizawa's voice was quiet. And if it can't? Alucard's grin returned. Then I get to see what breaks first. Nezu's smile held, but his eyes were sharp as knives. That is not acceptable. Alucard shrugged. Then make it acceptable. Aizawa felt the shape of the real problem settle into place. This wasn't about stopping Alucard. It was about stopping everyone else from using him, and about stopping Alucard from turning their morals into a stress test. 2 days later, Midoriya found a note in his desk. No name, no signature, just one line, written neatly. You want to understand the monster. Come to the rooftop after curfew. Midoriya's stomach dropped. He looked around the classroom. No one seemed to notice him freeze. His hands shook as he folded the note. This was exactly what All Might had warned him about. A trap. And yet, his heart beat faster in a different way too. Because part of him wanted the truth. Not rumors, not fear, not edited clips. A real conversation. That night, Midoriya lay in bed staring at the ceiling again. He thought about his dream. The foreign presence in the vestige space. He thought about civilians running. He thought about heroes arguing over rules while a monster smiled. Then he thought about All Might's voice. Do not go looking for him. Midoriya closed his eyes tight. He didn't go. He stayed in bed. He did the right thing. And still, he slept with a heavy feeling in his chest, like he had missed something that mattered. Alucard sat alone in his room, reading another stack of regulations. He tapped his pen on the paper, thinking. He had expected this world to be simple. Heroes fight villains. Villains fight heroes. People scream. The strong decide. But this world had a different flavor. It was built on public trust. Public trust was fragile. It meant you could win a fight and still lose the war. That was interesting. Alucard smiled to himself. Then his shadow moved in a way he didn't make it move. A tiny ripple, like a fish under dark water. Alucard's smile widened. "Oh," he murmured, "you're watching too." He didn't need to turn his head to know it. Somewhere, someone with patience and power had leaned closer. Someone who didn't rush like Shigaraki. Someone who wanted control more than chaos. Alucard's eyes gleamed. "Good," he whispered. Finally, a real adult in the room. And the next game began. The official commission meeting was held in a building that looked friendly from the outside. Clean glass, bright lobby, smiling staff. Inside, the security was heavy enough to make the air feel thick. Alucard walked in with Hawks and Aizawa on either side and looked around like he was touring a museum. He hummed. "Nice cage." Aizawa's voice was low. "Don't start." Alucard grinned. "I started when I arrived." They entered a conference room with a long table. Multiple commission members sat waiting. Screens showed maps, charts, and careful words. The same woman in the dark suit sat at the center. Her smile was polite. Her eyes were cold. "Welcome," she said. "Thank you for attending." Alucard bowed in an exaggerated flourish. "Thank you for inviting me to my own adoption ceremony." No one laughed. Alucard sighed. "All right. You people are boring." The woman gestured to a chair. "Sit." Alucard sat, crossing one leg over the other. "So," he said brightly, "what do you want? And what do I get?" The woman's voice remained even. "You get legal permission to participate in hero operations. You get access to mission targets. You get an official identity within our system." Alucard's eyes lit up. Identity. Great. Put vampire on the card. The woman didn't react. "In return, you follow rules. You accept supervision. You agree to containment measures if you become unstable." Hawks's feathers twitched. He didn't like that phrase. Containment measures. Alucard smiled. "And if I say no?" The woman looked at him calmly. "Then you will remain a threat outside the law, and law enforcement will treat you accordingly." Alucard's grin widened. "You can try." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. The woman continued, unfazed. "We are not here to threaten you. We are here to offer you purpose." Alucard leaned forward slightly. "Purpose. Like hunting." The woman nodded. "Like protecting." Alucard laughed softly. "You keep saying that word like it's the same thing." She tapped a screen. A map appeared. "We have identified a location tied to recent Nomu logistics. A warehouse cluster. Likely a distribution point." Hawks's eyes narrowed. "You found a lab?" "Not a lab," she corrected. "A node." Alucard smiled. "You want me to bite your villains?" The woman's smile didn't change. "We want you to assist on a controlled raid. Cameras included. Clear objectives. We capture, not kill." Alucard sighed. "Fine." Aizawa's eyes flicked toward him. "You agree too fast." Alucard grinned at him. "Because you're offering me a game with rules, and I want to see if your world can survive its own rules." Hawks watched Alucard closely. "And if the villains push you?" Alucard's eyes gleamed. "Then we'll find out what I really am." Aizawa felt a cold knot form in his stomach, because he knew villains would push, and he knew the commission was counting on it. That evening, the raid team assembled. Hawks, Aizawa, Endeavor. 2 additional pros chosen for containment and rescue. And Alucard. They arrived near the warehouse district under a dark sky. Streetlights buzzed. Wind moved trash along the curb. Hawks hovered above, scanning rooftops. Aizawa moved on foot in shadows, scarf ready. Endeavor walked like a marching furnace, flames low but present. Alucard strolled behind them like he was going to a concert. Aizawa spoke quietly into his radio. Remember, civilians could be inside. We prioritize rescue. Alucard nodded. I love rescuing. It's like hunting, but with extra steps. Hawks sighed. Please stop saying that. Alucard grinned. No. They reached the main warehouse. The doors were shut. No lights visible through the windows. Hawks landed silently on the roof edge and listened. He heard it. Breathing. Many breaths. Not all adult. Hawks's stomach dropped. Hostages, he whispered. Aizawa's eyes hardened. Of course. Endeavor's voice rumbled. They're using civilians as shields. Alucard's smile widened. Now it's a real hero problem. Aizawa looked at him sharply. This is not funny. Alucard's eyes gleamed. It's not funny for them. It's funny for me. Hawks's feathers rose, ready to move. We go in quiet. We extract hostages first. Aizawa nodded. Agreed. Alucard cracked his neck. And if the villains try to run? Hawks's voice went cold. Then we stop them. Alucard smiled, without killing. Hawks didn't answer, because he didn't have a good answer. Inside, the warehouse was worse than they feared. Dozens of people were tied up or penned behind makeshift barriers. Adults, teens, a few children. Some looked drugged, some looked awake and terrified. Villains paced with weapons, not guns, tools, quirk-enhancing gear, stun batons, knives. A man with a loudspeaker stood on a metal walkway above, and on the far side of the room, in a circle of bright lamps, sat a metal frame. A cage. Not for hostages. For something else. Hawks's eyes locked onto it. His feathers went stiff. The cage was lined with the same kind of wiring and markings the Nomu harness had used. The same red glow. Aizawa felt his throat tighten. They built another one. Endeavor's flames flared in anger. They're trying to trap him. Alucard's smile widened like Christmas. They made me a present. Aizawa's voice went sharp. Focus! But it was already too late for quiet. The loudspeaker man raised a hand. Lights snapped on. Cameras whirred to life. And a voice boomed through the warehouse. Welcome, heroes! The hostages flinched. The villains laughed. The man on the walkway spread his arms wide. We knew you'd come. We knew you'd bring him. Hawks's face went hard. It's staged. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. This is for the public. Endeavor's teeth clenched. They want a show. Alucard looked around like he was soaking in applause. Hi, he called out, cheerful. I love your decorations. The man laughed. You don't know what you are, do you? Alucard grinned. I know exactly what I am. The man pointed down at the cage. Step into it. Prove you're a hero. Prove you follow rules. Hawk's feathers twitched. Don't. Aizawa's voice was low. Alucard. Don't you? Alucard took one step forward. Then he stopped and looked back at them. His smile was wide, but his eyes were sharp. You see it too, right? He asked lightly. This is a trap. Aizawa didn't blink. Yes. Alucard's grin widened. Good. I was worried you were slow. Then Alucard turned back to the villains and shouted, bright and loud, No! The man on the walkway blinked, surprised. Alucard spread his arms. But I will do something better. He raised one gun toward the ceiling and fired. The shot cracked through the warehouse, loud enough to make everyone flinch. Then Alucard laughed. Everyone, he said, voice carrying. If you want to live, get down. Hawks moved instantly, feathers shooting to cut hostage restraints. Aizawa's scarf snapped out and wrapped a villain's ankles, yanking them off balance. Endeavor surged forward, flames exploding in a controlled wave that forced villains back without touching the hostages. The warehouse erupted into chaos. The loudspeaker man screamed, "Now!" The cage lit up. The red glow pulsed outward like a heartbeat. And from the shadows behind the hostages, 3 Nomu rose. Not huge. Fast. Built for capture. Their bodies carried small metal packs with the same wired markings. Aizawa's stomach dropped. Hawks's eyes widened. "Multiple devices!" Endeavor roared and slammed into the first Nomu, driving it through a stack of crates. Aizawa activated Erasure on the second, trying to reduce its quirk-based strength or speed. But the Nomu didn't slow the way it should. It wasn't just quirks. It was built. Hawks's feathers sliced straps and packs, trying to rip the devices off. And Alucard. Alucard walked forward like the chaos was rain. One Nomu lunged at him. Its hands opened wide like it wanted to grab him, not kill him. Alucard grinned. Smart. It grabbed his shoulders and tried to slam a device onto his chest. The device clamped. It glowed red. For a split second, Alucard's shadow stiffened again. The air around him felt tighter, like a pressure change. Alucard's grin twitched. Then he laughed. "Okay," he said. "That's still cute." He lifted one gun and fired point blank into the Nomu's face. The Nomu's head snapped back, but it didn't fall. Alucard fired again and again and again until the head was mostly gone. It still twitched. Alucard sighed. Fine. Shadows exploded upward from the floor, forming dark tendrils that wrapped the Nomu's torso and yanked it apart like tearing cloth. Limbs flew. The device on Alucard's chest screamed with a faint electronic whine. The red glow flared, and Alucard's body jerked, not from pain, but from being pulled, like something was trying to drag his existence into the cage. Aizawa felt his blood go cold. This wasn't just a net. This was a hook. Hawks shouted, "It's pulling him toward the cage." Endeavor blasted the cage with fire, but the metal frame held. The glow flickered, but didn't die. Aizawa sprinted toward the control panel near the walkway. The loudspeaker man saw him and laughed. "You can't stop it. We built it for the monster." Aizawa's scarf snapped out, yanking the man off the walkway and slamming him into the floor. Aizawa leaned close, eyes red with erasure. "Who built it?" The man coughed and grinned through blood. "A doctor." Aizawa's stomach dropped. "Garaki." Aizawa slammed the man's head into the floor again, not to kill, just to shut him up. Then he looked at the control panel. Too many switches, too many wires. A trap inside a trap. He didn't have time to understand it. So he did the simplest thing. He ripped it apart. Sparks flew. The cage glow flickered hard. Alucard's body jerked again, then steadied. He laughed, breathy, pleased. "Oh, Batman, that was hot." Aizawa didn't respond. He turned and scanned the hostages. Hawks was already cutting restraints with feathers, guiding people toward the back exit. His face was focused, jaw clenched. Endeavor fought the second Nomu near the center, flames controlling the space so civilians could move. But the third Nomu had slipped through the chaos. It moved low and fast toward the hostages. A child stumbled. The Nomu's hand reached. Alucard appeared in front of it. He moved so fast the eye barely caught it. He grabbed the Nomu's wrist and squeezed. Bones cracked. The Nomu hissed, eyes blank. Alucard leaned in close, smiling. "You're going to stop reaching for kids." He slammed the Nomu's arm down into the floor, pinning it. Then he looked up at the cameras above and waved. Hawks's stomach dropped. Alucard knew the cameras were there. He wanted them to see. Alucard raised his gun. Aizawa's voice cut sharp. "No!" Alucard sighed dramatically and lowered the barrel just enough. He fired into the Nomu's knee instead. The Nomu buckled. Alucard's shadow rose and swallowed it, pulling it into the floor like quicksand. The Nomu vanished below. Hawks stared. Aizawa stared. Endeavor slammed the last Nomu into a wall and held it there with a flame-lined grip, not burning it to ash, but locking it down. The hostages were almost out. Then the warehouse door slammed shut. Metal locks clicked into place. A voice came over the loudspeakers again, calmer now. Not the loudspeaker man. A different voice. Older. Smoother. All for one. Wonderful, the voice said. You are all right where I want you. Hawks's blood ran cold. Aizawa's eyes widened. Endeavor's flames flared. Alucard's grin widened like he had been waiting for this. Hello, Alucard called out, cheerful. Are you the one watching me from the dark? The voice chuckled. I have heard so much about you. Hawk's eyes scanned the ceiling. No visual, no body. Just sound. All for one continued, gentle as poison. You are powerful. You are persistent. And you are bored. Alucard placed a hand on his chest, mock offended. How dare you profile me? All for one's tone stayed warm. Heroes have offered you rules. I offer you freedom. Aizawa's stomach tightened. He's trying to recruit him. All for one continued. You don't belong in this world. They fear you. They will cage you the moment you slip. Hawks's feathers rose slightly. He's right about the cage part. Endeavor snarled. Shut up. Alucard tilted his head, listening like he was enjoying music. Go on. All for one's voice turned softer. Join me. I can give you endless conflict, endless play, and I can remove your leash. Aizawa's eyes locked onto Alucard. Don't. Alucard smiled. Oh, I'm not joining you. All for one's voice didn't change. Why not? Alucard's grin sharpened. Because you sound like you want to own me. All for one chuckled. All alliances involve ownership. Alucard laughed. Then you're already boring. For the first time, the voice shifted. Not angry, but tighter. A shame, All for one said. Then we proceed to the second option. The warehouse floor trembled. A circle of red glow flared again, not from the broken control panel, but from beneath the cage itself. Hidden power. A backup system. A trap within a trap within a trap. Alucard's shadow stiffened. His body jerked as if a hook caught him in the spine. Hawk's eyes widened. It's back! Aizawa sprinted toward the cage, but the glow rose higher, forming a shimmering barrier around it. Endeavor blasted it with fire. The flames splashed against it like water against glass. Alucard laughed, breath shaky but delighted. Oh, that's clever. All for one's voice came through again, calm. We do not need you dead. We need you contained. Alucard's grin widened. Try harder. The glow pulsed, and Alucard began to slide toward the cage, not dragged by hands, dragged by reality, as if the room itself was telling him where to be. Hawks flew close, feathers trying to hook Alucard's coat to pull him back. The feathers tore on the glow like they hit a field of knives. Hawks hissed, I can't grab him. Aizawa's eyes narrowed, mind racing. He could erase quirks, but this wasn't a quirk. Endeavor couldn't burn it through. So what could stop a trap designed for something that didn't follow rules? Aizawa's gaze snapped to the hostages. Most were out, but not all. 2 teenagers were still trapped near the side, pinned by a fallen beam. They were crying, unable to move. The glow spread outward, creeping toward them too. All for one's voice was gentle. Choose, heroes. Save the last ones, or stop the containment. Aizawa's jaw clenched. Endeavor roared and surged toward the trapped teens. Hawks broke away to help, feathers sliding under the beam. Aizawa ran with them, because they always chose people. Alucard watched them go, eyes bright. Then he laughed. Not mocking, not cruel, almost impressed. "All of you," Alucard said softly, "are stubborn." The glow pulled him harder. Alucard's body began to blur at the edges, like a bad signal. He raised his guns, not aiming at people, but at the floor. He fired. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. The bullets hit in a perfect line, cracking the concrete in a wide arc. Then Alucard's shadow surged down into those cracks like it had been waiting. The shadow spread under the glow field. It pushed against the red light like 2 waves colliding. The glow flickered. Alucard's grin widened. He leaned forward, eyes fierce with joy. "You want to cage me? You need to understand something." The glow pulsed again. Alucard pushed back harder, shadows thick as tar. "I don't just regenerate," he said, voice loud now. "I cheat." The shadow wave surged. The red field shattered like glass. Alucard stumbled forward, free, coat flaring. The warehouse lights flickered wildly. All for One's voice went quiet for a beat. Then it returned, still calm, but colder. "Interesting." Alucard laughed, breathless. "Yes." Hawks and Endeavor freed the last trapped teens and rushed them out the emergency exit. Aizawa turned back, scanning for the next danger. But the warehouse doors were already opening again. Kurogiri's mist swirled near the far wall like a storm cloud. All for One was not here in person. He didn't need to be. The villains began retreating through the mist, dragging equipment and tossing smoke grenades to cover their exit. Hawks shot feathers to pin a few to the ground, but the mist swallowed most of them. Endeavor blasted fire into the mist, but Kurogiri's portal simply moved, shifting its opening away. Aizawa sprinted, scarf snapping out toward the retreating gear. But the last thing to vanish was the cage. The cage itself folded into the portal like it was being pulled away. They took the trap with them. They took the data. They took the idea. Alucard watched the portal close and smiled like he'd just been given a challenge worth his time. Aizawa's chest tightened. Hawk's voice was low. "They wanted this." Endeavor's voice was a growl. "They're learning." Aizawa looked at Alucard. "And so are you." Alucard turned to him, grin wide. "Yes," he said. "And now I know something important." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "What?" Alucard's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "Your big bad isn't a tantrum boy. It's a planner." Aizawa's stomach sank, because he already knew that. But hearing Alucard say it, smiling, made it feel worse. Like the storm had just found its direction. When the raid footage hit the internet, it didn't look like a rescue. It looked like a horror movie. People saw hostages. They saw Nomu. They saw heroes trying to save people. And they saw the red man laughing while reality tried to pull him into a cage. They saw him wave at cameras. They saw shadows swallow a monster into the floor. They saw enough blood to make parents turn off screens. The commission released a statement by sunrise. They called it a victory. They said hostages were saved. They said villains were driven off. They said the special cooperation operative had been essential. Some people believed it. Many did not. And villains, in dark rooms, watched the clips again and again. Not because they were afraid, because they were taking notes. In Yue, Nezu sat with All Might and Aizawa in silence. All Might's hands were clenched tight. They used civilians. Aizawa's voice was flat. "They'll do it again." Nezu's smile was polite, but his eyes were hard. And now they have proof that containment might be possible. All Might's gaze sharpened. Possible. Aizawa nodded once. The device pulled at him. It didn't hold him, but it affected him. All Might swallowed. So, All for One is trying to build a cage for a monster. Nezu nodded. Yes. Aizawa's voice dropped lower. And the commission is going to want that cage too. All Might's chest tightened. We can't let that happen. Nezu's smile held, but his tone was steel. Then, we must be smarter than both sides. Aizawa looked toward the hallway, where guards stood outside Alucard's room. He felt tired down to his bones. And he felt something worse. They were no longer reacting to chaos. They were now part of a contest. A contest between a government that wanted control, a villain who wanted power, and a monster who wanted a good game. Aizawa exhaled slowly. This was going to get personal. Soon. The next few weeks felt like the world was holding its breath. Hawks noticed it first in the way people looked up. Every time a shadow moved wrong, someone flinched. Every time a siren sounded, phones came out. The city had always been nervous, but now it had a new shape of fear. Not just villains. Not just Nomu. A red coat. Hawks tried to pretend it was fine. That was what he did. He smiled, made jokes, and kept moving. But even he could feel it. The commission moved fast. They always did when the public got scared. They built a story. They called the warehouse raid a successful rescue operation. They praised the pro-heroes. They praised the special cooperation operative. They avoided saying the words vampire, immortal, or monster. They put Alucard's existence into a neat box with an official label. And then they tried to put Alucard himself into a neat box too. Hawk sat in a briefing room with a tablet in his hands and a quiet anger in his chest. On the tablet was a schedule, mission windows, escort duty, containment drills, behavior assessment sessions. They even had a section called public image. Hawk stared at it and let out a slow breath. They're writing a life plan for a hurricane, he muttered. Across the room, a commission handler smiled like Hawks had said something adorable. Routine creates stability, she said. Hawks didn't look up. Routine creates predictability. The handler kept smiling. Exactly. That word landed like a warning. Predictability was what villains wanted. Predictability was what All for One used like a knife. Hawks pushed back from the table. Where is he right now? The handler's eyes flicked to the screen. UA grounds, as agreed. Hawks nodded once, then walked out before he said something that would get him in trouble. He didn't like the feeling in his gut. Not the fear. Not the pressure. The sense that a lot of smart people were making the same mistake. They thought control was the same as safety. And Hawks had seen enough cages to know how that ended. At UA, Aizawa's routine had turned into a nightmare schedule. He still taught. He still trained students. He still watched the gates like a hawk with no sleep. Now he also supervised a creature that didn't fit into any chart. Alucard had been given a routine, too. It looked ridiculous on paper. Morning, supervised mobility on campus grounds. Midday, briefing on legal boundaries. Afternoon, controlled mission support, if needed. Evening, debrief. Night, secure housing. Aizawa stared at the list one morning and wondered which part was supposed to make him feel better. Alucard strolled beside him on a quiet path near the training field, hands in his coat pockets like he was on a casual walk. He held a laminated card up to the sunlight, admiring it. "Look," Alucard said, cheerful. "They spelled my name right today." Aizawa didn't look at it. "Stop waving that around." Alucard pouted. "But it's official. It makes me feel included." Aizawa's voice was flat. "You don't want to be included." Alucard's smile stayed bright. "No, you're right. I want permission." Aizawa stopped walking. Alucard stopped too, turning his head. Aizawa met his eyes. "Why?" Alucard blinked, like he was surprised the question still mattered. Then his grin softened. Just a little. "Because," he said lightly, "your world thinks rules make you good. And I want to see if that's true." Aizawa's jaw tightened. "Rules don't make you good." Alucard's eyes glittered. "Then what does?" Aizawa didn't answer right away. He thought of students who ran towards danger even when they were scared. He thought of All Might standing tall while his body failed him. He thought of Hawks, smiling while being pulled like a string. He exhaled, choosing limits, even when you don't have to. Alucard smiled wider. Exactly. Aizawa frowned. That wasn't agreement. That was warning. Alucard laughed. Same thing. They walked again. Aizawa's mind kept circling one problem. Alucard had not killed anyone since the station. Not on camera. Not in the operations. He had gotten close. He had played with the edge. He had made it clear he could do it any time. But he hadn't crossed the line. That was almost worse. It meant he was capable of restraint. It meant his danger wasn't only violence. It was choice. He could choose to follow the rules, or he could choose to prove how weak the rules were. Aizawa hated that kind of power. Not strength, not speed. Control over the moral ground everyone stood on. Midoriya watched from a distance whenever he could. Not because he wanted to disobey All Might. He didn't. But because it was hard to ignore a storm when it was sitting inside your school. He saw Alucard once from a second-floor hallway, walking with Aizawa near the training field. He saw the red coat moving like a flag. He saw the way teachers watched him, even while pretending not to. Midoriya's stomach twisted. Part of him wanted to run up and ask questions. 100 questions. How does his body heal? Why do shadows move like that? Is he lonely? Does he have anyone? But another part of him remembered the warehouse footage. The way Alucard waved at cameras in the middle of a hostage rescue. Midoriya didn't know what to do with someone who could save people and still feel like a danger to hope. He wrote in his notebook that night anyway. Not about fighting him. About understanding the problem. He wrote, "Fear spreads faster than facts." He wrote, "A hero needs trust." He wrote, "A villain can win by changing the story." Then he stopped writing, because in the quiet space of his mind, he remembered the dream again. That foreign presence at the edge of One for All's world. It hadn't felt like a quirk. It had felt like a person, smiling in the dark. All for One enjoyed waiting. It was one of his favorite things. He listened to reports. He watched clips. He studied behavior. He did not need to be in the street to feel in control. He sat in a hidden room with Dr. Garaki, and he let the pieces fall into place. "The Commission has begun treating him as an asset," Garaki said, voice eager. They created structure around him. All for One's mask hissed softly as he breathed. "Good." Garaki tilted his head. "Why is that good? It makes capture harder." All for One's voice was calm. "Structure creates weak points." Garaki's smile widened. Predictability. All for One did not confirm it with words. He didn't need to. He turned his head slightly toward a screen showing Alucard walking at UA, red coat bright against clean school walls. All for One spoke softly, almost affectionate. "He is not like our others." Garaki nodded. Not a quirk, not a nomu, not even fully alive. All for One's tone remained gentle, and yet he wants something. Garaki leaned forward. "Permission." All for One chuckled. "Yes." Garaki's eyes shined. "Then we offer it." All for One's voice turned warmer. "We offer him a world with no leash and no limits." Garaki frowned slightly. "He refused earlier." All for One's head tilted. "Because I spoke like an owner." Garaki blinked. All for One continued. "This time we speak like a liberator." Garaki's smile returned. "A moral trap." All for One's masked face angled toward the screen. "Heroes will not understand him. The Commission will try to cage him. They will push and push until he snaps." Garaki lifted a small device from a tray. It looked like a refined version of the warehouse trap. Sleeker, stronger, more stable. Garaki's voice turned excited. "And if he doesn't snap, we still tighten the net." All for One nodded once. "Prepare the stage." He leaned back, calm as a man planning a party. Bring him to a place with eyes, he said. Bring him to a place with children. Bring him to a place where the heroes must choose. Garaki's grin stretched. Understood. All for One's voice went soft. And send a message to the commission. Garaki paused. A message? All for One's tone was almost amused. They think they are the only ones who can plan. The message arrived on the commission's private channel the next morning. It was short. It contained no name, but it carried a weight that made the room go quiet. We know you want to move him. We will help. The commission woman in the dark suit stared at the text for a long time. Then she smiled. Not because she trusted it, because she understood it. Someone was offering to shape the battlefield. She turned to her staff. Accelerate the transfer. A handler hesitated. Transfer to where? Her smile stayed polite. To where we can secure him. A staff member swallowed. UA will resist. The woman's eyes remained calm. They will comply, if we make it sound like safety. Her gaze shifted slightly, like a knife turning. And if anything happens, she added softly, the public will demand stronger measures. No one argued, because fear made people agree to cages. Aizawa found out about the transfer by accident. Nezu called him in with all might and Hawks, and the mood in the room was wrong from the start. Nezu's tea sat untouched. All Might's shoulders were tense. Hawks's smile wasn't on his face at all. Nezu spoke gently. The commission wants Alucard moved to a secure facility. Aizawa's jaw clenched. No. Hawks's voice was low. They're calling it protective housing. Aizawa stared. It's a cage. All Might stepped forward, fists tight. We cannot allow them to treat him like an object. Aizawa's eyes flicked to All Might. We also cannot allow him to roam freely. All Might didn't deny that. We can supervise him here. Nezu's ears twitched. The commission says UA is not equipped. Aizawa almost laughed. We just survived a staged hostage raid built around him. Hawk spoke softly. They don't care about equipped. They care about owned. Nezu's smile thinned. Yes. Aizawa took a slow breath. We refuse. Nezu's gaze held steady. We can refuse, but we must understand what comes next. All Might's eyes sharpened. What? Nezu's voice stayed calm. They will still try. And if they fail, they may do it in a way that endangers civilians or students or both. Hawk's jaw tightened. They already have a route planned. Aizawa's blood went cold. You saw it. Hawks nodded once. I did. Aizawa stared at the floor for a second, then looked up. If they move him, All for One will hit the convoy. All Might's voice went quiet. You're sure? Aizawa didn't hesitate. He already tried to cage him. He will try again. Nezu set his cup down carefully. Then we prepare. Hawks's eyes narrowed. Prepare how? Nezu's smile returned, polite and sharp. We let them think they are in control. Aizawa felt his stomach twist. All Might's expression tightened. Nezu! Nezu lifted a paw. We do not want a battle in the streets. We want the battle where we choose. Hawk swallowed. And Alucard? Nezu's eyes flicked toward the window, toward the campus beyond. We tell him the truth. Aizawa's throat tightened. That might be worse. Nezu's smile stayed. Or it might be the only way to keep him from playing the wrong game. Alucard listened to the transfer plan like it was a joke someone was telling badly. Aizawa stood in front of him in the guest room, arms crossed. Hawks leaned on the wall. Nezu sat calmly. All Might stood behind them, quiet, heavy with meaning. Alucard leaned back in his chair. So the government wants to take me to a basement. Aizawa's voice was flat. Yes. Alucard's smile widened. And you're asking me to go? Hawk spoke carefully. We're asking you not to make it worse. Alucard clasped his hands. You mean you're asking me to behave while they try to lock me up? All Might finally spoke, voice calm. "We are asking you to think about the people who will be hurt if you resist in public." Alucard stared at All Might for a long moment. Then he smiled like he was actually pleased to hear that framing. "You're clever," Alucard said. "You used civilians as a moral anchor, not a threat." All Might's eyes stayed steady. "Because it's true." Alucard tilted his head. "And what do I get if I cooperate?" Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "You shouldn't need a reward to not harm people." Alucard's grin sharpened. "And you shouldn't need a leash to trust someone." Hawks exhaled. "Please, don't turn this into a speech." Alucard laughed. "Why not? Everyone else does." Nezu spoke softly. "If you go with them, they will try to control you. If you refuse, the public will panic. Either path helps all for one." Alucard's smile widened. "So you want a third path?" Nezu nodded. Alucard leaned forward slightly. "Tell me." Aizawa's voice stayed cold. "We let the transfer happen, but we prepare a counterplan. We keep civilians away. We keep students away. We keep eyes on every angle. And if All for One hits the convoy, we stop him." Alucard blinked. "So you want to use me as bait?" Aizawa didn't deny it. All Might's jaw tightened. "We don't want to. But if he attacks, he will do it anyway. Better on our terms." Alucard's grin was wide now, bright and unsettling. "You're learning." Hawks watched him closely. "Will you do it?" Alucard leaned back again and stared up at the ceiling like he was thinking. Then he smiled to himself. "Yes," he said. "I'll go." Aizawa stiffened. That was too easy. Alucard looked at him. "It's not easy. It's entertaining." All Might's voice went quiet. "Do you understand what they will try to do?" Alucard's eyes glittered. "Yes, they will try to cage me." All Might's gaze tightened. "And if they succeed?" Alucard's smile grew slow. "Then they earned it." Aizawa's stomach dropped. Nezu's voice stayed calm. "Do not underestimate them." Alucard laughed. "I don't underestimate anyone. I just don't respect most people." Hawks rubbed his forehead. "This is going to be a mess." Alucard's grin widened. "Yes." Then he stood and adjusted his coat like a man preparing for a date. "Let's go meet the government," he said happily. "I want to see how brave they are when I'm in their car." The convoy left at dawn. No students were allowed outside. UA had tightened its gates. Teachers watched from windows with tight faces. Midoriya stood behind a classroom curtain with Uraraka and Ida, all of them silent. They weren't supposed to watch, but they did anyway. They saw armored vehicles roll out. They saw Hawks lift into the air. They saw Endeavor's flame glow moving parallel to the road, just out of sight. And they saw Alucard step into the middle transport vehicle like he was getting into a taxi. He even waved at the school. Midoriya's stomach twisted. He couldn't tell if the wave was friendly or if it was a promise. Hawks flew high above the road, eyes scanning every rooftop and alley. He had done escort missions before. He knew how attacks happened. This one felt different, because the target wasn't a person. The target was a concept. Control. The convoy moved through a less crowded industrial area. The Commission had chosen it on purpose. Fewer civilians, more space, more security. Hawks watched trucks and warehouse roofs and empty lots. Then he saw it. A slight bend in the air. A dark swirl. "Portal," Hawks said into his mic, voice tight. "Kurogiri, 2 blocks ahead." Endeavor's voice rumbled. "I'm moving." Aizawa's voice cut in. "Keep the convoy moving. Do not stop." The lead vehicle accelerated. The portal widened. Nomu dropped out like bombs. 3 of them. Fast ones. Capture ones. Each with a compact harness device strapped on, glowing faintly red. Hawk's blood ran cold. They brought cages again. Endeavor surged in with a burst of heat, slamming into the first Nomu and driving it sideways into a wall. Hawk sent feathers like spears. pinning the second Nomu's arms to the ground. The third Nomu leaped straight for the transport vehicle. It hit the roof with a heavy thud, claws digging in. Inside, commission guards shouted. One raised a weapon and hesitated. They had been told Alucard was cooperative. They had not been told what it felt like to be in a box with a monster when the world started breaking. Alucard sat calmly on the bench seat, hands folded, smiling like a child watching fireworks. The transport shook as the Nomu punched through the roof. Metal tore. Light poured in. A claw reached down, aiming for Alucard's chest. Alucard looked up, delighted. "Hello again." The claw grabbed him and yanked. Alucard let it. He slid upward through the hole and onto the roof with an easy motion. The Nomu snapped a harness clamp toward him. It latched. Red light flared. For a moment, Hawks saw Alucard's body jerk like a hook had caught him. Hawks' stomach dropped. It grabbed him. The Nomu tried to shove Alucard toward the open portal as Kurogiri's mist expanded nearby. Aizawa ran along the ground below, eyes red, scarf snapping out to grab the Nomu's ankle. Endeavor blasted fire in a tight line, cutting off the Nomu's path without hitting the vehicle. Hawks dove, feathers aiming for the harness straps. Alucard laughed. Not nervous. Not angry. Happy. "Oh," he said loudly, "you brought a leash for my leash." He stood still for a heartbeat and let the device pull. His coat fluttered. The air around him seemed to tug, like gravity had opinions now. The commission guards inside screamed for him to get down. Alucard didn't. He lifted one hand and tapped the harness. He said, "It's improved." Then he did something that made Hawks's heart freeze. Alucard leaned into the pull. He let it drag him toward the portal. Aizawa shouted, "What are you doing?" Alucard looked down at him, grin wide. "Learning." The portal yawned open. Kurogiri's mist swirled like a mouth, and Alucard stepped into it. For a split second, Hawks felt the world tilt, because Alucard didn't vanish like a normal person entering a portal. The red coat seemed to stretch, like it was in two places at once. Then Alucard was gone. Hawk's blood ran cold. Aizawa's eyes widened. Endeavor roared and surged toward the portal, but Kurogiri shifted it, pulling back. The Nomu on the roof jumped into the mist too. The portal snapped shut. The road fell into a terrible quiet. Hawks hovered, breathing fast. Aizawa stared at the empty air. Endeavor's flames burned hotter, angry. Then a laugh came from behind them. "Wow," Alucard said. "That was rude." Hawks spun. Alucard stood on top of a streetlight pole 10 meters away, perfectly fine, coat untouched, smiling like he had just come back from a fun ride. Aizawa's jaw dropped slightly before he forced it shut. Endeavor's eyes narrowed. "How?" Alucard hopped down lightly and landed on the road like gravity was optional. He looked at Hawks. "Bird, you looked sad. Don't be sad." Hawks's voice was tight. "You went into the portal." Alucard nodded. "Yes." Aizawa's voice was low and sharp. "Why would you do that?" Alucard's grin widened. "Because I wanted to see where it went." Endeavor snarled. "This isn't a tour." Alucard looked honestly confused. "Why not? Your villains keep inviting me." Hawks felt his stomach twist. "Did you see All for One?" Alucard's eyes glittered. "No." Aizawa stiffened. "Then what was the point?" Alucard's smile sharpened. "The point is that your big bad thinks I can be carried away." Alucard lifted 2 fingers like he was holding an invisible string. He tugged. The shadow under the streetlight moved. Then, behind them, a second portal flickered open. Small, unstable, like it was being forced. Kurogiri's mist wavered as if something was pulling on it from the wrong side. Hawks's eyes widened. Alucard grinned. "I left a little note." The portal sputtered and spat out the Nomu that had grabbed him, crashing onto the road like a tossed bag. The harness on the Nomu sparked, and died. Aizawa stared, stunned. Endeavor stepped forward and slammed the Nomu down with a burning grip, pinning it in place. Hawks hovered lower, eyes locked on Alucard. You hijacked the portal." Alucard shrugged. "I walked through it. I learned its smell. Now it's easier to find the door." Aizawa's throat went dry. This was what he feared. Not that Alucard could win fights, that he could break systems. Kurogiri's portal did not reopen. The villains had pulled back the moment they realized something went wrong. They retreated fast. The convoy, shaken but intact, continued moving. Inside the transport, commission guards stared at Alucard like he was a natural disaster that had decided to help them. Alucard climbed back into the vehicle and sat down politely. He smiled at the guards. "Good news," he said. "Your cage is terrible." No one answered. Alucard's grin widened. "Also, your seatbelts are uncomfortable." When they reached the commission facility, the building looked calm and clean. From the outside, it could have been a hospital. From the inside, it felt like a vault. Thick doors, hidden cameras, quiet hallways that swallowed sound. Alucard walked in under escort and looked around, amused. "This is adorable," he said. "Do you keep your secrets in little jars too?" The commission woman met him in a bright room with a glass wall and a table. She offered a seat. Alucard sat. Hawk stood near the wall, arms crossed. He didn't like being here. Every part of him screamed that this place was the wrong kind of safe. Aizawa stood closer to the door, eyes tired and sharp. All Might was not here. The commission had suggested he not attend. That suggestion had teeth. The woman smiled politely. "Thank you for cooperating." Alucard smiled back. "Thank you for trying to kidnap me with extra steps." Her smile didn't change. "We are offering you stability." Alucard leaned forward. "You're offering me ownership." She clasped her hands. "You want permission. We can give it." Alucard's eyes glittered. "And you want control. I can't give it." Her gaze stayed calm. "You can. You simply choose not to." Alucard laughed softly. "You think control is a contract. That's cute." She slid a folder forward. "Sign. Full cooperation, full resources, full legal protection." Hawk's jaw tightened. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Don't." Alucard didn't touch the folder. He tilted his head. "Question. If I sign, and you tell me to kill someone, what happens?" The woman's eyes didn't blink. "We would not." Alucard's grin sharpened. "That's not an answer." Her voice stayed smooth. "We operate for public safety." Alucard leaned back. Public safety is a story people tell when they want to do ugly things neatly. Hawks' feathers twitched. The woman's smile thinned by a fraction. "We can protect you from All for One." Alucard blinked. "Can you?" She tapped a screen. It showed a simulation of the cage device, updated, stronger. It showed a containment scenario. Alucard watched it like he was watching a child's drawing. Then he smiled. "You're building the same toy." Her eyes stayed calm. "It will work eventually." Alucard's grin widened. "Eventually." Aizawa's voice was low. "This is what I warned about." The woman looked at Aizawa. "Your caution is noted." Then she turned back to Alucard. "You have two paths. Work with us under official structure, or remain a threat outside the law." Alucard stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed dramatically, like he was disappointed. "You're boring," he said. The woman's smile froze slightly. "Excuse me?" Alucard leaned forward, eyes bright. "All for One tried to recruit me with freedom. You tried to recruit me with paperwork. Both of you want the same thing." He pointed at his own chest. "A leash, a handle, a button you can press." The woman's voice stayed controlled. "We want safety." Alucard's grin was wide, and now it carried something sharp under it. "No," he said. "You want the right to decide who deserves safety." The room went quiet. Hawks watched the woman's eyes. He saw a flicker of irritation. He saw it because he lived for reading people. And that flicker told him everything. Alucard sat back. "Here's my offer." Aizawa stiffened. Hawks narrowed his eyes. The woman said nothing. Alucard continued, cheerful. "I stay at UA. I take missions when civilians are at risk. I follow the no-killing rule while you're watching, because it makes you feel better." Aizawa's jaw tightened at the honesty. Alucard lifted a finger. "But you do not build cages. You do not move me. You do not threaten the school. You do not touch the kids." Hawks's stomach tightened. He hadn't realized how much he needed to hear that last part. The woman's smile returned, thin and polite. "You cannot dictate terms." Alucard's grin widened. "Yes, I can." The woman's voice went colder. "You are in our facility." Alucard looked around the room. "Am I?" The shadow under the table shifted. Not large, not dramatic, just enough to remind everyone that this building had corners, and corners had shadows. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. He could feel the room change, the way animals feel thunder before it arrives. Hawks's feathers rose slightly, not to attack Alucard, but out of instinct. The woman held her posture, but her fingers tightened on the folder. Alucard smiled. "Listen," he said, almost friendly. "You can't cage me. Your villains can't cage me. I'm not your weapon." He tapped his chest once. "I'm your problem." Then he pointed lightly toward the glass wall. "And if you keep pushing, you'll make me everyone's problem." The woman's smile stayed, but her eyes were hard now. "Is that a threat?" Alucard considered it. "It's a forecast." Aizawa exhaled slowly. Hawks swallowed. The woman leaned back, calm again, as if she had never lost control of the room. "Your terms are unacceptable." Alucard shrugged. "Then we're done." He stood. 2 guards moved automatically, hands on weapons. Hawks's voice snapped. "Don't!" The guards froze, uncertain. Alucard looked at them and smiled like he pitied them. Then he turned to Hawks. "Bird, walk with me." Hawks hesitated. Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Hawks." Hawks held up a hand. "Tiny. I've got it." He stepped closer to Alucard, careful. "Where are you going?" Alucard grinned. "Back to school." Hawks' voice was low. "They won't like that." Alucard's smile widened. "That's their problem." He walked toward the door. The woman's voice followed him, calm and sharp. "If you leave, you will be declared non-compliant." Alucard glanced back. "Put it on my record." Then he stepped into the hallway. The lights flickered once, and the shadows stretched just a little, like the building itself was sighing. Hawks walked with him. Aizawa followed, tense, ready, and no one stopped them, because everyone in that facility understood the same truth in their bones. If you tried to force him, you would not win. You would only decide how many people got hurt in the attempt. By the time Alucard returned to UA, the sun was low. Nezu met them at the gate with the same polite smile, as if nothing had happened. "All went well?" Nezu asked. Hawks's smile was tired. "Define well." Aizawa's voice was flat. "The commission tried to own him." Nezu nodded, like that was expected. "And?" Alucard spread his arms. "I declined." Nezu's ears twitched. "I see." Alucard grinned at Nezu. "Good news. I'm moving back in." Aizawa sighed. "Don't call it that." Alucard laughed. "Fine, I'm occupying." Nezu's smile remained. "Then we will adjust our plans." Alucard's eyes glittered. "Excellent." Aizawa's voice was low. "This isn't over." Alucard looked at him, grin wide and strangely sincere. "Of course it isn't." He turned his head toward the city beyond the school walls, like he could see through distance. "Your big bad will try again," Alucard said lightly. "And your government will too." Aizawa's stomach tightened. "So what now?" Alucard's smile softened into something almost calm. "Now," he said, "I stay where the rules are stubborn." Hawks blinked. That's... Why? Alucard glanced at him. Because it's annoying. And I like annoying. Aizawa stared at him, trying to read the truth under the jokes. Then Alucard added, quieter. Also, your people try, even when they're scared. Aizawa didn't answer. Because that was the closest thing to respect he had heard from Alucard. And it made the whole situation feel even more dangerous. Because respect could turn into attachment. And attachment could turn into a choice. The next week, a rumor spread through Musutafu. They called him the Red Knight. People said if a Nomu came, shadows would move wrong on the walls, and then the red coat would appear. They said villains stopped laughing when they saw his smile. Some people said he was a hero. Some said he was a government weapon that escaped. Some said he was Dracula. The truth was simpler and stranger. He was a monster who had agreed, barely, to stand on the hero side of the line. Not because he had become good, because he wanted to see if good could survive him. On a quiet night, long after curfew, Aizawa stood on a rooftop walkway at UA, hands in his pockets, eyes tired. The sky was clear. The city lights in the distance flickered like a sea of tiny stars. He heard footsteps behind him, slow and confident. He didn't turn right away. He didn't need to. Alucard's presence didn't sneak. It arrived. "You're awake," Alucard said, cheerful. Aizawa's voice was flat. "That's my job." Alucard walked to the edge and looked out. "Nice view." Aizawa glanced at him. "You don't sleep." Alucard smiled. "Not really." Aizawa watched the city. "The commission is furious." Alucard shrugged. "They'll live." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "All for one will adapt." Alucard's grin widened. "Good." Aizawa's jaw tightened. "You want him to." Alucard looked at him like Aizawa had finally said the obvious part out loud. "I want a challenge," Alucard said. "I want something that can push back." Aizawa's voice was low. "And if that challenge costs lives?" Alucard's smile didn't fade, but it quieted. "Then you'll hate me." Aizawa didn't deny it. Alucard leaned on the railing. The wind tugged at his coat. After a moment, he spoke in a softer tone. "You asked me once why I wanted permission," Alucard said. "Want the real answer?" Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "That wasn't the real one." Alucard chuckled. Parts were real. He looked out at the city again, eyes bright but not laughing now. "In my world," he said, "people like me don't get asked to choose limits. We get used. We get pointed." Aizawa's throat tightened slightly. He didn't speak. Alucard continued, casual but sharp. "Here, everyone keeps telling me, don't. Don't kill. Don't scare people. Don't break the rules." Aizawa's voice was flat. "Because we have to live together." Alucard's grin returned, small. "Exactly." Aizawa looked at him. "So you're staying?" Alucard tilted his head. "For now." Aizawa's eyes narrowed. "Because you respect the rules?" Alucard laughed once. "No." Aizawa waited. Alucard's smile softened again, almost honest. "Because your rules are annoying," he said. "And your people keep choosing them, even when it's hard." Aizawa stared at the city, chest tight. "That choice," Alucard added, "is interesting." Aizawa finally spoke, voice low. "You're still dangerous." Alucard grinned wide. "Yes." Aizawa's eyes stayed on the skyline. "And if you get bored again?" Alucard's smile turned sharp, playful. "Then you'll glare at me," he said, "and the bird will try to talk sense into me. And your symbol guy will look sad." Aizawa didn't smile. Alucard leaned closer, voice bright again. "And I'll see if your world can keep its spine." Aizawa exhaled slowly. In the distance, a siren wailed and faded. Aizawa watched the lights and thought of students sleeping inside the building behind him. Kids who believed heroes would always show up. He didn't know if Alucard would protect that belief or break it. Maybe both. Aizawa glanced sideways. Do you regret coming here? Alucard blinked, like the question surprised him. Then he looked out at the city again. No, he said simply. It's loud. It's messy. It's alive. He paused. And it keeps trying. Aizawa stayed quiet. Alucard's shadow shifted behind his feet, calm and patient. The wind moved across the rooftop. And in that quiet, the world felt like it had changed in a way it couldn't undo. Not because the strongest fighter won, but because a monster had seen a rule, tested it, and, at least for now, decided not to break it. Alucard smiled at the city like it was a puzzle that would never fully be solved. All right, he said lightly. Let's see what tomorrow brings. Aizawa watched him vanish into the stairwell shadows without hearing a single footstep. Then Aizawa looked out over Musutafu again. The city was still there. The fear was still there too. But so was something else now. A warning. A legend. And a very stubborn line in the sand that heroes would keep drawing, even when the tide tried to wash it away.